Today on Locked On Rockies, Colorado picks up a nice win, and that means we are going to talk positive about the club today. And the Guardians have a player that would be an absolute dream fit for the Colorado Rockies, and I bet you can guess.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 25th day of April in the year 2023. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, you are in the right spot, because that's what we do around here is talk about the Colorado Rockies each and every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Follow us on Twitter. You can at LO Rockies. You can also be part of the show when you subscribe to Locked On Rockies on YouTube. You'll know when we go live. That means you can be part of the show. Ask your questions. We'll talk about them live on the show. Have a great live chat of Rockies listeners that come in every day. And thank you for making us your first listen every day. If you're an everyday listener, let us know in the comments. Tell us where you're tuning in from, telling us what's up, hi, hello, and your favorite Rockies take. Today on the Locked On Rockies podcast, we are going to talk good things about the Rockies as a win makes us do so. If the Rockies win, I'm more inclined to want to be positive and upbeat, because there are a couple of storylines to follow for the Rockies that are good signs and good things for the Rockies. Now, the club is facing one of those storylines is going to involve the club making another big decision, and it was the whole theme of yesterday's podcast. That's going to loom, but it is we got some reassurance, and we'll get to those storylines and a look at what worked in the game yesterday. But I wanted to start the show on a different note, because as I was watching the game yesterday, there's few time, obviously there's players that you say, of course, and there's superstar players that you're like, I'd love that guy on my team. Like, yes, the Rockies would love to have Aaron Judge on their team. Mookie Betts, we talked about Mookie Betts a ton on the show. Mike Trout, Shohei, of course you want the superstars. But I think the Rockies, if they were to make like some sort of a move, like some, and I don't, it wouldn't work out, but one that would be incredibly interesting, and one that I think would be an incredibly awesome pickup, because I think he fits the exact type of makeup of what the Rockies are looking for in a player, or at least what I hope the Rockies are looking for in a player, and that's Steven Kwan. That dude is legit. That guy is really exciting, and the way that he plays defense and the way that he steals bags, I mean, he would just be such a threat if he could play great defense and be someone that's going to be willing to steal second and third. That's what's so fun about the Guardians. And that's one of the things that I have liked so much about baseball, not so much watching the Rockies, but I think base stealing being back in an emphasis is such a great way for a team to do special things on offense, or at least or escape an underperforming offense. I think stealing bases is a worthwhile risk. And if you have a guy that not only isn't afraid to steal bags, but is successful at it and is willing to go second and third, I mean, that is so unique. I mean, especially if you were to factor in the fact that he'd get to play in somewhere that he can hit the ball all over, and he can also cover some ground there. This is a guy that is certainly has a tremendous upside, and he's going to continue to be great for the Guardians here. He batting .267 on the year, 358 OBP, 680 OPS, 11 RBIs with 5 stolen bases. on the year already. 11 RBI, like I said. 24 hits in 90 at bats, and he scored 10 times. He goes 3 for 4 in yesterday's game. He's hitting 3 straight games. He back-to-back games with no strikeouts for Steven Kwan as well. It's just so many elements of a great ball player and someone that fits a lot of what what works at Coors Field is right there. The ability to hit the ball, over to be someone that can be a really efficient hitter. His career is young, but so far in his career, a 294 hitter, 371 OBP, a 760 OPS. And arguably not reaching his stride, his biggest stride. Yes, he's not hitting you a lot of home runs, but he would be an elite leadoff hitter at Coors Field for you. It would be something very, very special. I think if you're not going to be able to pull that off, obviously, because Kwan could have been a Rookie of the Year. But he's someone that has a lot of the DJ LeMahieu type of vibes to him. I think someone that is going to be a real good ball player that it just flies under the radar a little bit as well. And I wouldn't say, I guess, DJ LeMahieu isn't flying under the radar necessarily anymore, but he certainly was when he was a member of the Rockies. Not a lot of people were talking about DJ LeMahieu outside of Colorado. And Kwan, I think, has a bigger presence around the league and people that follow the game, especially with being as good as he was last year in his rookie season. But his profile fits Coors Field, his abilities fit Coors Field, and he's just a really exciting and engaging leadoff threat, which I think the profile has some shades of, but certainly not the I don't know. I mean, we'll see if Kwan can be more consistent. It's still a young career, so things can change there. So maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself, but I mean, given the choice between the two right now, I think the choice would be pretty easy for me. All right, let's get to the game, and let's get to some notes about what is some good news about the Colorado Rockies coming up here in segment number 2. But before we do that, getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially because we're always growing and changing. I can't even count how many times that my life changes just about weekly, honestly, at this point. And sometimes it helps to get some help. Therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding, because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we react the way we do until we talk through things. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. Want to thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every single day. And if you are an everyday listener, thank you. We appreciate you. Nicholas Delvo in the chat says, hi, Paul, and I say hello to you. Remember, you can be part of the show. You can be part of the live chat by tuning into the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel and seeing when we go live. And it helps when you subscribe. That's when you're going to know when we're live. And Nicholas has a good question for the Rockies faithful. What is going on? We can win the first one, but constantly losing the series. It's fascinating, right? It's one of the weird baseball things. It's only happened twice now, so it's not a full-blown conspiracy yet. I just think it's this Rockies team, I would say, isn't, as we mentioned yesterday, isn't great, but is more underperformed in a lot of ways. That makes it, wow, this team is capable of doing something like it did yesterday. But it's clearly not the norm. It's just fascinating that this team can go on the road and win 2 shutout wins to start series. Like, that's just such a random, like, not only is that a random thing for the Rockies to do, that's like a thing the Rockies would never do. I mean, man, how many times over the past few years especially have the Rockies not had 7 runs in a series on the road? Let alone, 6. The question now remains is where do can the Rockies actually do this? Can they win a series here and keep it consistent? The issues there. It's just so. Last night's game we're basically watching a carbon copy, what feels like, of the setup and the Phillies series, where it's like, hey, this is a team that's good, maybe in some ways underperforming, on the road, looking to go up against a Rockies team to pick up some wins, to take advantage of a poor Rockies team. And again, the Rockies do exactly what they did in Philly. They go into Cleveland and they look great. I mean, they just play again. They get back to fundamental good baseball and things of that nature. And the Rockies go out to win again. When you get 10 hits and you score 6 runs with 0 errors, like that, good, clean baseball. Big news too there. Chris Bryant did play and he did stay in the entire game. No issues there. One of the big storylines to watch, of course, from the IL there, or well, not IL. My apologies, from when he was removed from the game, but that's a refresh. That's a sigh of relief. Sorry, my throat is so dry. I went to the Avs game last night. So fun, such a bummer. Anyway, it's just so now, how do the Rockies, are we going to have the same podcast again? Are we going to have the same conversations again going into this? Win the series now. Go out and do it. I mean, you have hopefully some of your best in the biz on the bump. You hope Ryan Feltner can recreate today, I guess. It's so early, man. Tomorrow's game's at 10 o'clock my time. Wow. And that's going to be the return of German Marquez. When we're talking positive storylines for the Colorado Rockies, that's a big one. This is a moment. I mean, if the Rockies can get a win here, they can set themselves up for a sweep. They're going to be going up against a rookie pitcher making his debut most likely on Wednesday. Well, and we know how well pitchers love pitching against the Rockies in their debut. That's what it seems like, at least. But again, that sets you up for a first. Not only would it be if the Rockies win tonight, first series win. If they do go out and they ball behind German Marquez, that would be your first sweep of the season as well. Building some momentum and going out and pulling off a road sweep. I mean, I don't think that's going to be the case tonight. I think it's going to be an interesting ball game tonight. But if German Marquez comes back, which is huge news for the Rockies. Which huge news that has big ripple effects here on what's going forward. With him looking good, with him having no issues with the bullpen session, everything that I've been reading is German Marquez is back Wednesday. So now the Rockies really face themselves in an interesting the interesting spot of what are you going to do with the starting rotation, and what are you going to do with that pitcher if it involves a move to the bullpen, because this Rockies bullpen has been a positive storyline more often than not for this Rockies team as well. It hasn't been perfect, and certainly some players are doing much better than others. But when you're looking at the issues with the Rockies, the bullpen is not the biggest glaring one here. It is one where the Rockies can kind of lean on him. I mean, they've been pretty strong in terms of bullpen performances more often than not. It's just especially with how bad they have been in the past, especially that's the big difference. But it's really great to see the bullpen working out. And I don't think inserting someone into the bullpen is going to help it, especially because when you start wondering when you turn to it's because Jose Urena should be the odd man out in the rotation right now. That's that Noah Davis being as decent and good that as he has been in his 2 starts compared to Urena is Davis deserves to keep going until it doesn't work anymore. So Nicholas Delvo asks, is there a shakeup needed in the lineup? I mean, it's not needed, but it's going to happen. And I think another positive storyline to kind of thread the things that are good, start going with the things that are working and, keep using the good bullpen pieces, and you're going to have to challenge and use your other options that aren't working, but have hopefully the ability to straighten it out and figure it out and get things back on track. But keep going with the things that work. I mean, especially if you're already embracing, if you really are trying to do success and you're doing stuff, like putting McMahon back at third and stuff, like that's really the focus is trying to win these ball games. Then you have to make you have to make the tough calls when it comes to reevaluating this starting rotation. And as much as that's a negative for Jose Urena and the Rockies bringing him back and not one of our positive things we wanted to talk about, but we should be very encouraged by Noah Davis. I don't think I'm not like thinking he's the next Cy Young winner, but Noah Davis has been going out and kept the Rockies in his starts and has shown some good stuff for a new young Rockies arm, which is a nice sign. We might have seen flashes of this before from other pitchers, but again, we that's fine. We got to see it. Some of the promising young Rockies guys that we thought most of them are dealing with injuries. It seems like. So when you got someone like Davis, why not embrace it? And I really like the move of Doyle. I think Doyle is it's going to take a second, but when you're adding that the abilities of Doyle, the tool belt, the toolkit of Doyle, I think that adds a nice, interesting wrinkle into your team, and gives you a nice option, especially if he's able to heat up and start making some hits and getting some swinging the bat like he did in Albuquerque. But as much as so there's a little positive momentum here. So not so much of a bet. Where the Rockies need to go next, I don't know if they've decided yet. In some ways, they've been making some decisions, but how long do they want to mix these things up, and how long are they going to keep doing that? Probably as long as it shows signs of working, like it kind of is. I mean, it's as much as the Rockies have been playing mostly losing baseball, of course, but this is a team that also has looked better out, in the last 5 games for the Rockies. We're going to shrink the sample size. The Rockies have really only played a bad game, a bad overall game, and we're out of it in one of those 5 games. The Rockies have won 2 out of the 5, and 2 of their 3 losses were 1-run losses. Loss is a loss. It doesn't matter doesn't matter by how much, but I think the Rockies are seeing, and you can kind of see that there are some things that are starting to work and starting to have a little bit of momentum. And I think to kind of circle back to one of the positives and things that we were talking about at the start of the segment, I mean, that bullpen has helped keep this Rockies lineup in games. There are certainly some Rockies bullpen pieces that have been very, very nice. Another scoreless appearance from everybody last time out for all the pitchers. I mean, Pierce Johnson's kind of, everyone is just, that's what I think has been good to look at. And what I wanted to look at today is when the Rockies win And when the Rockies are in the zone, it's kind of impressive what they can do and how efficient they can be. I mean, that was on top of everything too with the bullpen with Jake Bird, Pierce Johnson, and Justin Lawrence pitching for 9 innings. Only 1 hit given up allowed by the 3 members of the bullpen in the win. So it's certainly possible that but the other side of the coin, we don't have to look at it too much because we want to stay positive. It's just it's such a the Rockies just feel like a different team every night. Whether that be the bullpen pieces that they have available or who's in the lineup or who's starting. I mean, there's just as much as you do feel the positives and kind of start seeing the threads of what's working. No, it doesn't work as well when you're in the hole. It doesn't work as well when you're not coming up with the big hits. There's just already the Rockies really need to just it's all of these things are great. But consistency is going to be the most positive sign to see for the Rockies, and that's not it. But Herman coming back, that is going to be big news and big things for the Rockies, especially when you know how dominant he can be in the game. The Rockies are also going to be looking at the return of Senzatella and more really, really soon here. The Rockies are getting production. One of the most encouraging positive signs from the game yesterday, something that I really enjoyed. Tovar, 2 games, 2 big RBI hits. We'd like to see more hits, obviously, but the hits that Tovar has gotten, at least recently, have been important ones and have come up in situations that help the Rockies. That's a great sign for Tovar. Back-to-back RBI games, back-to-back games with a hit. That's a nice way to start building his confidence a little bit more as well. Because if Tovar can start getting that bat heating up a little bit, it's gonna really help the Rockies because the glove is certainly there. Tovar is certainly a major league shortstop caliber defensively. Now we just got to get that bat up to speed, and it might. And now let's if Tovar can turn this into a nice little series, that would be great. A couple more RBI, a couple more hits in this series, that would be another great sign for the Rockies as well. All of the positive signs that the Rockies have kind of right now, and especially that we saw in the game yesterday, are small, but when you break it down, when you look at it, when you zoom out, as baseball is kind of you got to look at it series by series and weeks by weeks. As the Rockies are losing, but they're playing better baseball and they're playing closer baseball, at least right now, and are in another situation where they could win a series and look pretty good, darn good doing it. Because the Guardians are certainly, they're a good team. They're a playoff team. They have a lot of capabilities as well. But I don't think they're a team that also has the same thump all the time that some of these other teams have. I think but it's also a team that it's going to get real ugly real quick. Like if the Rockies fall behind tonight early, I think they're going to be in trouble. But we're keeping it positive, and I think the Rockies are going to keep this momentum. Are going to keep I think that they are going to win the 1-run game sooner rather than later. It might not be a lot of them in a row, but I think with how, with the Rockies having ample opportunities in Philly, I think the ball is going to bounce their way. And if they if the Rockies don't commit an error in the game, it's going to drastically improve their odds of winning. An obvious statement, I know, but with the Rockies errors and with how frequent they've been and some of the errors that we've seen, that's what's really been costly to this team. It hasn't necessarily always been, a poor pitching performance or the Rockies not scoring runs. It also comes to the fact that this team, is just missing out on those opportunities. Okay, let's look ahead to tonight and look again at some more things around the world of Colorado Rockies baseball, including, just whatever we're going to talk about. I mean, it's the Rockies right now. It's right before first pitch. I am trying. There's the positive stuff we covered. I it's like I don't want to just keep leaning back on but on all this on all the negative stuff. And I'm totally just ranting and rambling today. But the Rockies do have some good things cooking. It's a very light sear. It's a very light simmer, but at least you can sit there and be a little more encouraged, a little more pumped up, feel a little bit better, and that's what I was kind of hoping for. If you zoom out on the last 5-game series as a whole, there's been a lot of frustration, there's been a lot of bad, but there's also been some sprinklings, some dustings of good, and at least maybe the signs of something good to come as well. We got to talk about our friends at So Rare. Our new sponsor, So Rare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and there's no cost to play. Head to sorare.com/locked on. That's so rare, SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. That's sorare.com/locked on to start playing today. And if you can get to the top of the leaderboard, you can earn a variety of rewards, including scarcity cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, and VIP experiences. SORARE.com. SoRare.com. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Did I just crash through that last segment. I apologize there. I feel like I just timed out on a couple of points that I was making. I think I needed to end my segment earlier there. But I'm in the post-playoff hockey brain fog. Man, what a blast that was last night. That's an atmosphere and environment, folks. Woo-hoo. Playoff hockey. Exciting. Would have been cool if the Avs won. But things to keep an eye out, too. Other positive signs and things to the Rockies. Patrick Saunders tweets, Senzatella is scheduled for his first injury rehab start tonight for the Albuquerque Isotopes. He was going to pitch in Hartford on Sunday, but it got rained out. So they're hoping to get 4 to 5 innings, 60 to 70 pitches for Senza there. And I'm intrigued to see what Senza's going to do. Senza doesn't necessarily fill me with excitement, but we also know that it's kind of nice having some. I still feel like I'd like to see what Senza's going to do versus some of the options that we've been seeing for the Rockies. And if he can. I'd love to see Senza come back and be able to strike out some batters some more. I'm wondering. I don't know how much of that's a focus, especially when you need to rehab a torn ACL, which is a very serious rehab and a very painful process already. I can't imagine though, but at the same time, I can. Reevaluating how much your pitching philosophy changed. I mean, Antonio Senzatella had a lot of time while he's recovering to think about this type of stuff, and I do wonder how much of that plays a role for pitchers. I mean, has Senza been, looking at the Rockies and watching the Rockies and seeing things with Colorado and maybe reevaluating his pitch mix or his approach to the plate? How is he going to handle the pitch clock? I mean, it's certainly factors that I'd have to imagine are a big deal for Senza, and of course that's not even the overwhelm. That's just the mental side of things. That's not even the whole getting back into the swing of things after a really tough leg injury. So Trevor Salzman asks about what happens with Urania if Senza comes back. I don't know. I mean, the Rockies. I mean, they might just eat it. They might just move on. They might just DFA. It certainly could be a possibility, but I mean, I think the Rockies are going to at least move Urania to the bullpen and possibly demote someone or something. I don't know, but the bullpen doesn't have a lot of room for Urania, so I just really don't know how much the Rockies are going to be willing to just move on. It just certainly doesn't seem like them. But Senza coming back, Herman coming back certainly adds depth to your starting pitching rotation. Tonight for the Rockies, first pitch coming up here very, very soon in just under an hour. Rockies are going to turn to Ryan Feltner, and Feltner has been someone that's, a couple of those bad starts, but last time out for the Rockies, he was pretty darn good, getting that win there in that last matchup. But let's get that line, actually. I'll give that Ryan Feltner line real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. Ryan Feltner. Because this is what the Rockies need. They need a repeat performance of last time out there for Feltner. And no earned runs, 3 hits, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. Let's just avoid the 3 walks. Ryan Feltner, under 3 walks today. Fingers crossed. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Bit of a rocky one, I'm sorry. But you know what? We talked positives. We had a good time. We were rooting for our Avs last night. They'll be back. We'll be back in action. Catch all your favorite podcasts on the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Hey, we will be recapping the series with Locked On Guardians later this week, so don't miss out on that. And folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.